Hello gamers, my name is Spark, and today I'm going to show you an awesome one-of-a-kind tool that you can use at your D&D or other TTRPG table. In this video I'm going to show you an inns, rooms, and taverns generator. This is a fantastic tool for GMs, especially if running a fantasy or medieval-y type setting. Be advised, I built these generators specific for D&D 5e, but with just a little bit of tweaking they can work for basically any TTRPG. Here's how this video is going to go. For starters, I'm going to show you the basics of how this tool works and how you can use it at your table. Then I'm going to show you what's happening behind the scenes to make the generator work, and how you can customize it to better fit your campaign. As with all of my generators, it's broken down into 4 main sections. You have the generate button that turns it all on. You have the settings section where you can tweak results. You have the results themselves, and you have the storage system where results can be saved for future reference. Let's go ahead and start by looking at the settings. We have some pretty intuitive settings here. You can set the inn or tavern's quality as a scale of 1 to 5 from condemned, rundown, decent, nice, and elegant. Currently it's set to random, which means that all 5 of these boxes checked, it will generate any one of these 5. However, if maybe your players are in a nicer part of town and you don't want any condemned or run-down inns or taverns, then you can uncheck those and you would only get decent, nice, and elegant. You can also select custom, and by setting it to custom, it actually turns off this checkbox system, and the quality of the inn is dependent upon an odds table. And I'm going to show you that odds table in the second half of this video, where we go back and look at the customization settings. You can set the inn's size from tiny to huge. Again, that functions just the same. You can set random or custom. You've got the inn's reputation, obscure to famed, random or custom. And you've got popularity, packed, crowded, active, quiet, or empty, random or custom. So all 4 of those sections function the exact same with the checkboxes or the customized setting. Now you can select whether you want rooms to be generated or not. So like if this is an inn and you want there to be rooms, then if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see down here, this is the rooms section, and there's a little minimize button right here. We can actually collapse that. If you don't want there to be any rooms, then this will just give us the tavern information, which we'll look at here in a second. But if you do want there to be rooms, you can expand this and the room details will be generated there. We will look at that in just a second. So if you want room details, leave this checked. If you don't want room details, uncheck that. If this is an inn and there are rooms, how are your players going to pay for their housing? Is the price based on the beds in use, or is it based on the room? So in other words, let's say you have 3 players who all want to bed up in the same room. Are they paying per bed, or are they paying per room? You can select bed, room, or random. And that's it for the settings. It's pretty intuitive. It tells you that it's ready to go. Let's click generate and see what we get. Click generate, and we can see we have an inn titled The Mischievous Tanner. Now the name of course is totally randomly generated, and I will show you how you can tweak those results later. We can see all of the details of this place. It's located on the outskirts of town. This is assuming of course that it is in a town. I would assume most taverns or inns are. But of course if your tavern is not, then you just ignore whatever information on here you want to ignore. The quality of this inn is decent. It's large. It's obscure. Not a lot of people go to it, which is why it's pretty quiet. There are 4 out of the 5 rooms that this tavern has are available. So 1 room is taken, in other words. The type of people who come here are the somber and or the homeless. I specifically leave that a little vague. Are these somber homeless people, or do we have somber people and the homeless? Is that an and or an or? That's up to you. Maybe it's both. And then price per room. In this case, it did per room. It was randomly set. It could have been per bed. It randomly generated per room, and so it's 4 silver per room. We get some additional details about the place before we get down into the rooms themselves. We get a description of the building. This is a large, decent 2-story structure of dark stone walls, a steep slanted roof, and a green painted door. The interior is home to several cats. Everything in this little paragraph is randomly generated, so it should hopefully mean that you never get the same description twice. You get something unique about the tavern down here. An aspect of contentment radiates from the empty performance stage. So in my mind, I look at that, if I was the GM and this was what was generated for this tavern, I would quickly, in my mind think, okay, so what was it that happened in the past that causes this stage to give a sense of contentment to those who are around it, those who are on it? Is it around? Is it on? As a GM, I would probably say that whoever takes the stage feels content on the stage. In this case, this is kind of a neutral positive detail to this tavern. There are neutrals and there are negatives, neutral negatives. There should be some good variety there. You get some details about the staff of this place. You can see that the owner of this tavern is a teen male half-elf. We've got a couple barkeeps. In my mind, I always go barkeep for day shift and night shift. That's how I do it in my brain. And so we've got a young adult female human. That's what YA, young adult female human. An adult male dwarf. And then you've got your main help. Probably again, day shift and night shift. An adult non-binary halfling or an old male half-elf. So this gives you some information on who's there. Now you don't get their names on this one, but I do have a NPC generator that you could use to generate some names. You get a little bit of a menu. You don't get a full fleshed out menu, but you do get a couple menu items that your help could talk to your players. Be like, well, today we've got some turkey leg and roast porcupine if you're interested in that, or I've got some game pie with some sliced ham. And we've got beer and cider on tap today. Probably something like that, how I would run that. I apologize for my awesome voice acting. But that's how I would run that. And it gives you the price for each of those. And you can adjust to the types of prices that are generated. I'll show you that in the back half of this video. And then there is a rumor. There will always be a rumor that's generated. And this is something that your players who are maybe listening in to the people there who are already at their tables or something, this is what they might hear. So, and this of course is randomly generated. A local blacksmith has been spurned by their one true love. Your players might hear that, and then your players can decide to investigate that or not. It's kind of a quest hook, if you will. It's a mini little quest hook that you can potentially feed into your overarching quest lines if you want, or have it be its own little tiny mini quest. You can play with that however you want to. So that's it for the tavern details. Now let's get down into the rooms themselves. So this one said that there are 5 rooms and 4 of them are vacant. And so you get your 4 vacant rooms, rooms 2, 3, 4, and 1. Looks like room 5 is the one that's not vacant, and it helpfully says so. You get a description of each room. So in this case, room number 2 is on floor 2, so that lets you know that this is a 2-story building. It gives you the room lock DC if you have any NPCs that might try to get into the room at night, or maybe other players who are trying to get into their teammates' rooms or something like that, as well as the door AC and the door HP if anyone wanted to try to break the door down. Its armor class is 13, it has 22 hit points. And then we get the description, right? This is a cramped room built to accommodate medium-sized patrons with 1 bed. You can have a different sized rooms, right? Because in the world of D&D, there are Goliath and there are halflings. So you're going to have different sized rooms. This is a medium-sized room with 1 bed. The space is messy and poorly lit by bioluminescent flora. No ambience can be heard. So this idea of ambience is suggesting, can the tenant of this room hear the people downstairs? Can they hear people out in the streets? How good is the audio insulation in this room? The bed is narrow and lumpy with straw mattresses. The room also has an ottoman and a standing mirror. There is 1 window that is nailed shut and an ever-burning fireplace. Adorning the space is a mural of a seascape and a decorated teapot. So you get some details there that you can just read to your players, right? And maybe your players don't care. It depends on your style, right? As a GM, do you like to go into a lot of description, or do you want to just kind of move on with stuff? And so you can totally read this if you want to, or totally not. Each room that is vacant will have a unique feature to it. In this case, a large shrine to a deity of the Tempest is in this room. So this gives you now quite a variety of details that you can describe to whichever one of your players goes into room number 2. If you want to pause my video now and take a look at rooms 3, 4, and 1 to see what they talk about, you might find that interesting. Now, if we scroll down and look at the room that is not vacant, you'll see we still have the same information, like the description of the room, but instead of there being a unique feature, we get a description of who is the current patron in that room. In this case, is a teenage male dragonborn. And so that is there if your players ever wanted to, I don't know, try to pick a pocket, or if you wanted to have your NPC interact with them in the middle of the night or something, you have an idea of who's over there. But we can continue to scroll down. You can see how many rooms here that are empty. There is a potential for up to 10 rooms. to be generated. Now, a tavern can have more than 10 rooms. Some of the huge taverns, right, can have up to 13 rooms, but it will only ever generate up to 10 because I had to put an end to it somewhere, and so we capped it at 10 rooms. Let's go ahead and look at the storage system right now. So the storage system is a place for you to store taverns that you've generated. Here's why that matters. Because everything in here, the corrosive werewolf, everything in here is randomly generated, and it is a dynamic cell. Every one of these things in here is a dynamic cell. And what that means is if you change anything anywhere in the generator, everything will refresh. So I've selected this cell over here. Watch what happens when I press delete. Just hitting one keystroke, silver tart, just hitting one keystroke resets everything, and the corrosive werewolf is now gone and we'll never get that back. Hitting undo will not bring that back. So we need to have somewhere where we can save these taverns so that we can draw on them again later. And that's what the storage system is. So if we scroll down to the storage system, we can see that we've got 8 slots for saving the taverns, and you can expand that slot and you'll see that it's formatted exactly like what it looks like up here in the results. So all you're going to do is you're just going to select and copy all of the results that you want to save, and then you're going to come down into the storage, you're going to select the title bar, you're going to right click, paste special, values only. And now the brooding skillet, which was up there a second ago, is down here, and notice what happens when I hit delete. Nothing changes. Meanwhile, up here, things are changing constantly. So this gives us a way to save the tavern, and we can just minimize this, and it's still there. This says slot 1 is full. This lets you know which slots you've used without having to open everything up. To expand that, the brooding skillet is still there. All of those details are there. Meanwhile, we can continue to generate stuff up here. And so one way you could use this is if your players are going to a new town or something, you could just quickly generate up to 8 different taverns, put them in slots 1 through 8, and then if your players are like, let's go find a different tavern, we're going to go bar hopping or whatever, you can just open up slots. Okay, you come up to the brooding skillet, which is a huge rundown building, and blah, blah, blah. Like, all right, on to the next one. It's like, okay, you just open up slot 2, and so it's an easy way for you to prepare for whatever shenanigans your players might want to get up to in going to different taverns. And then when you want to open up a slot or you want to delete stuff out, you just select everything that you copied and pasted in, and you press delete. And now it says slot 1 is open. Now I do have to make this point, do not just press paste, right? Don't just go paste, because you'll notice things are obviously not working. We're getting value errors, everything is not right. So you have to do paste special, values only, and then there again is the brooding skillet. But really that's it. The inns, rooms, and taverns generator is really simple in concept and in execution. So that's it, but there's a ton more that you can do with it on the back end. So let's go ahead and get into customization. But before we do that, let me just remind you, this isn't my only generator. I have dozens of others that I think you'll find interesting. This table that you see on screen now shows all the generators that I've created and which of them at the time of publishing this video have video tutorials like this one. All of my random generators are available for download on buymeacoffee.com for just a couple bucks. Links are in the description. If you're enjoying this video, now would be a great time to share it with other gamers. Please hit the like button and subscribe, it really helps me out. Now, it's customization that sets my random generators apart from all of the others. If you're a widely experienced GM, this probably is not your first tavern generator that you've ever toyed around with, but it will probably be your last, because no other tool has allowed you to customize the code and the master lists so that you can personally craft your own spectrum of results. So let me show you how to do that now. Every one of my generators has a reference tab. So you can come down here in the bottom and click reference tab. We get 5 different sections of settings that we can tweak. So for tavern macro, you can open this up and there's a lot. There's a lot of details here that you can tweak, so bear with me if you're looking to get into the customization. So we have the location list. Remember back here in the results, we saw location is southeast. That's southeast right there. So whatever pops up in this cell comes from this list. You can edit to this list however you'd like to. Now this list is currently capped down here at row 12, but you can still add to this list if you want to. The way you would do that is you would right click anywhere in the center of the list. You'd right click, insert cells, shift down. Now that opens up a spot where you can type new stuff, and now that has the potential of being generated over here. I had to click the generate button a few times, but there it is right there. Location, blah, 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 and that's because I put it right there. Now, assuming you wouldn't want that to be a location, how do you remove things from this list? Well, you would right click whichever one you want to have removed. You would go delete cells, shift cells up, and now that's gone, and without leaving any holes. You don't want to delete and leave a hole, and that's true of all of the lists moving forward. Okay, we're going to look at a lot of lists here in the customization section of this video. You never want to leave a hole in the middle of a list. So when you want to delete something, make sure you do the right click, delete cells, shift up. And when you want to add something to a capped list, you can still just come in and shift cells down. Most of the lists that we are going to deal with here in customization are not capped, so you shouldn't have to do a lot of that insert cells shift down, but occasionally you might. Equally as common in all of the settings are these odds tables, and they're going to look just like this. They're going to have the green, they're going to have the gray over on the right, and you're going to see a bunch of percentages. I'm going to explain this once in detail, how to use this odds table and how to tweak it. And then moving forward, because you're going to see a lot more of them, I'm not going to keep re-explaining it because that would take us forever. So we have this list. In this case, this list is the in quality list. Notice it's condemned through elegant. That's the same list as right here, condemned through elegant. And remember how I said you can have this set to random or custom. And when you set it to custom, this all grays out and it comes from an odds table in the custom settings area. And this is that odds table. So if you have this set to custom, then what are the likelihoods of the in being condemned? What are the odds of it being run down, decent, nice, or elegant? These are the odds. There's a 12% chance of it being condemned, a 22% chance of it being nice, and so forth. You can change these percentages however you would like to. If you would like condemned to be more common, you increase that percentage. You want elegant to be less common, you decrease that one, and so forth. But do make sure that these all add up to 100%. If these do not add up to 100%, then the generator may not function appropriately. Do not edit anything here in these gray cells. It's just part of the functionality of the generator. So moving forward, when you see an odds table like this, you're going to edit it just like I described. So you have the in quality, you have the in size, you have the in's reputation, and you have the in's popularity. Those are those 4 sections from the main generator's settings. When they are set to custom, they will pull from those 4 tables, so you can edit those percentages however you would like to. Now let's look at room availability. That was right here, vacant rooms, 4 out of 12 in this case. If it's a tiny inn, how many rooms might the tavern have? In this case, it has a minimum of 1 and a maximum of 3. These are min-max tables. We have tiny, small, medium, large, and huge taverns. So if it's a huge tavern, there will be a minimum of 8 rooms and a maximum of 20. Now again, just to remind you, it will never generate more than 10 rooms details down here on the generator, but that doesn't mean that there aren't more than 10 rooms in the tavern. You can change these numbers, and you're going to see a lot of min-max tables moving forward as well. Here's a min-max table over here. Here's a min-max table right here. Here's 2 more min-max tables over here. So again, I'm just going to explain to you how to do this with the min-max table, and then moving forward, you will know how to use every other min-max table that you see. What you are telling the generator is if the inn is tiny, randomly generate a number between 1 and 3. So possible results include 1, 2, and 3. But you can change these numbers. If you want tiny inns to have a minimum of 2, you can just come in and type 2, and now it will always generate either 2 or 3 rooms. You can change any of these numbers however you want to. The only rule is make sure your minimums are always equal to or less than their respective maximums. Okay, with that being said, they're pretty intuitive, so hopefully that made sense. You can ignore these blue and green cells. Here you have room availability percentage based on popularity. So how many rooms, what percentage of rooms are going to be available based upon the popularity of that tavern. If it's a crowded tavern, any percentage between 0 and 55% of the rooms that are available. So it could be that there's 0% of the rooms available, which means that there's no vacancy and your players don't have a room to rent. Or it could be that there's up to 55% of the rooms available. And again, this is based upon the tavern's popularity, which is right here. In this case, it's packed. This tavern, the Deceitful Duck, is a packed tavern, and so it's pulling from these odds right here. And if we look back at here, we can see that 0 out of 15, we can see that in this case, actually 0% of the rooms were available. And so yeah, your players wouldn't have anywhere to stay in this case. So you can change these odds. If you always want rooms to be available for your players, then don't set any zeros. That's what I did down here with active, quiet, and empty. I figured the less active taverns, the less popular taverns, would always have at least one room available. Ignore these gray and gold cells, they're part of the function. Scrolling to the right a little bit, we have patron demographics lists 1 and 2. That was for this result section right here, patron demographic, and our 2 descriptors right there. This is descriptor column number 1, descriptor column number 2. You can add or remove to these lists as I showed you previously. There is no cap on this one, so you could add another 1,000 descriptors or demographic categories if you really wanted to. I do have some duplicates in here, and the reason that I have duplicates in here is to increase the likelihood of them being generated. So it would make sense to me that you're 4 times more likely to have locals than you are to have thieves. So that's why I put locals in there 4 times, because that way they're more likely to get generated. Scrolling to the right a little bit more, we have room price table. So first off, you can set the denomination that these rooms are going to be priced in. You can have it be copper, silver, or gold. If we change it to gold, notice over here it says price per bed is 4 gold pieces. If we change it back to silver, then it goes back to 5 silver pieces. So this is where you determine whether you want gold, silver, or copper for the price of the room. And then you have the price of the room or the bed. This is the same table for either one, based upon that tavern's quality or condition. So in other words, an elegant tavern might charge up to 30 silver pieces per night, or even 30 silver pieces per bed. Again, you can change those numbers. You have the drink price table. Remember over here we had our drinks, ale, and malt. Where did those prices come from? This table right here. Cheap, average, or choice, minimum, and maximum. Now, the cheap, average, and choice, what is that talking about? We haven't seen those words yet. The cheap, average, and choice has to do with the quality of the food or drink that is being presented. So this was our food down here, our food price table. Again, you can change the denomination. And we've got our drink price table. Now you've got cheap drinks and you've got cheap food. You've got average drinks and food, and you've got choice drinks and food. Where is that information? Well, if you scroll right, it's actually inside of the tavern main room setting section. You have to expand this open. You have to scroll right for a ways. I know I'm jumping ahead, we'll come back. But you'll notice here we have list of drinks and list of plates, cheap, average, and choice. So if you're getting cheap drinks, this may be what gets selected, any one of these. If it's average, maybe one of those. If it's choice, maybe one of those. Same thing with the food. And again, I'm going to come back and explain that in more detail, but that's what this is talking about over here. If the drink is cheap, it'll be between 1 and 4 coppers. If it's choice, it'll be between 12 and 40 coppers. So this is just dealing with pricing. Actually getting into the food and drink choices themselves is farther to the right. We'll get back to that in a second. Scrolling to the right a little bit more, we have this last section in the macro details, and this is the description of the building. So right here in this gray cell is kind of the Mad Lib, if you will, for what that paragraph looks like, right? It says a blank structure, in this case, a huge 1-story structure, right? So there's the resulting paragraph. This is the formula, if you will. And you have your 4 columns of details that make up that paragraph. So you have the walls, and you can see we have all sorts of different types of walls in here with a mural on the, right? You have to, so if you're going to add stuff into this, you need to write it in a way that it will fit into the sentence. So in this case, looking at the result, we have a huge, nice 1-story structure with expertly cut large stone walls. And that result is right here, expertly cut large stone. And then the word walls is already there, and that's always going to be there. So you can add whatever details you want on the walls, on the roof, on the door, and on the interior. The interior on this one, right, the interior is fragrant with body odor. If you remember the first one, it talked about how the interior was full of cats, right? Well, in this case, it's fragrant with body odor. And that one comes from this interior descriptor list. You can see that we have some details in here, but some of these could be fleshed out a little bit more if you wanted to. All 4 of these lists are uncapped. You can carry those down as far as you want to, without needing to insert cells to make room for them. Okay, so that's it for the macro details sections. We can close that. Let's open up the Tavern main room section. And what all of this is, with a unique feature or gimmick with music, structure, blessing or curse, a unique person or a shrine or statue, all 5 of these sections in this all have to do with this one cell, this unique cell that I talked to you about. In this case, an appearance of stillness radiates from the tapestry on the wall. So as a DM, if my players walked in and they saw this tapestry, they might feel a sense of calm or stillness, or if you wanted it to be malevolent in some way, you might have it convey a sense of like stupefaction, where they kind of zone out. They're just staring at it. They, have the 1,000-yard stare, and their friend has to like make a wisdom save in order to bring you back or something. If you wanted it to be malevolent, you could do that. And that's what this is. This one little box, and this is the whole table. And I did this so that I wanted every single tavern to have a unique element to it that no other tavern would ever have. So there are 5 different types of unique things that could happen. So there's music, and if you look up here, we have our 5 different types, and each one has its own Mad Lib. So the music is a rare quality or race or whatever. So we have in this case, a comically muscular would be what goes in under a rare quality. Human plays or sings and so then we have attitude, and then we have chipper or light or whatever on the bagpipes. And so that would produce this description of a minstrel who's in the tavern doing something, right? And so you have your rarity or your rare quality that's being exhibited, the race, the attitude, and the instrument. You can add to those lists however you like. You have structure, and this has to do with the tavern's blank blank element as a unique feature. So it's hearth, maybe repeats the name of the tavern in gold paint or something like that. So this is just giving something unique to the physical structure of the building. For blessing or curse, this is where we get that aura or attitude or appearance. We've seen that one come up a couple times. So if I cycled through a couple times here on our results. We see a dwarf is playing 5-finger fillet on at an empty table. Nobody else seems to notice or care, right? That was one from the music one here. But we've got blessings or curses that might be inside the tavern. We've got a unique person, and that one is this Mad Lib right here. A race, verb, location, and tavern. Nobody else seems to care, or everybody is watching. Either one of those may happen. And so you can add or remove to these lists. And then you've got a shrine or statue. It tells you where it's located in the tavern, an adjective of its description, the shrine itself, and an adjective of how many elements exist with that shrine. So you have all 5 of those sections that you can use and tweak to give your tavern something unique. And that is all just based on a ran between. So this cell right here that says number 4, don't edit this. I'm just showing you how this works. It's a function that's ran between 1 and 5. And whichever one it produces, if it produces a 1, then it will do something music based. It'll pull from this stuff. If it's structure, it'll pull from this stuff, and so forth. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's how the generator determines what's going to be generated. It's just based on equal odds 1 through 5. So that's that. Now we have the rumor generator. I've scrolled a little bit to the right, and we have the rumor generator. We can have rumors about people. We can have rumors about a place, or we can have custom rumors. I'll get to that one in a second. So rumors about a person, there's your Mad Lib, and here are your lists. These are endless lists. You can add to them as far as you want to. So this result here is a rumor about a person, and it says, a nearby little boy is deathly ill. Their kin are desperate for anyone who can help. This is the 2nd time this has happened recently. That's a pretty interesting rumor, and all of that comes from this section about rumors about a person. Rumors about a place might look something like this. A mysterious well is the go-to place for trysts and secret lovers, 'tis said. If only intrigue could be converted into gold, I'd be rich indeed. So this is written as though the players had heard it spoken like that. Now over here, you'll notice we have 3 checkboxes. We have a checkbox next to rumors about a person, rumors about a place, and custom rumors. You can check and uncheck these as you like. If you only want rumors about people, then just leave that checked. If you're good for either, check both, and if you're good for all 3, or whatever. But the catch with the custom rumors is this is where you need to come in and write your own custom rumors. So you could put in whatever you wanted to in these sections about rumors about a person or place, but I incorporated this custom rumors as a way for you to expose your players to particular plot points or quest arcs that they're already associated with, and maybe you want to force those to happen more regularly or something, and so you might type in a few particular rumors in here that are related to your overarching quest, and then you just turn these off, and then you can see that sample is always going to be generated because that's the only option here in the custom rumors list. Now there's no Mad Lib on this one, that's why this says all in one. You're going to put all of the details that you want in just into one cell, unlike these other sections where you spread it out across to fit in a particular Mad Lib. So that's how we generate the rumors. Scrolling to the right a little bit more, we have our list of drinks and our list of plates. Again, as I exposed to you earlier, we have the cheap, average, and choice. These lists are uncapped. You can add to these lists as long as you want to. Same thing with the food choices as well. I would recommend that whatever you type in, you try to keep within the space that I've given you so that it fits over here. If you type something much longer than what I have in here, then probably it won't fit in these cells over here. Maybe you don't care. You can always reduce the font size to make things fit better if you want to, but just a fair warning on that one. Scrolling to the right a little more, we have our staff. We have our possible ages, our possible genders, and our possible races. Again, we have duplicates for allowing for the odds of something to happen more or less often. And then we have our tavern names. And tavern names, again in this case ours is the Pokey Artificer, just comes from these 2 columns. We have a column of adjectives and we have a column of nouns. And this right here in the gray just lets you know how many possible pairings there are. There are 112,000 possible tavern names in this current edition. If I set this to speed scroll, you can see that we have quite a few options with about 340 adjectives and 340 nouns. So again, hopefully you never get the same tavern twice. Okay, so that's it for that section. If we look at our vacant rooms description paragraph, open that up, this is all going to have to do with the vacant room description right here. So this big gray box is the Mad Lib to help you understand what's happening. So we have a description of the spaciousness, we have the bed count, min-max between 1 and 4. Ignore the yellow, orange, and gray boxes. That's all part of the function, just ignore that. You have your odds table for whether it's a small, medium, or large race accommodating room. 80% of the time it'll be medium, 10 for large, 10 for small. You have the cleanliness of the room. So, and this is based upon the quality or the condition of the tavern. So each quality, condemned, rundown, decent, nice, and elegant, each quality has its own odds table for how nice the room is. So you'll notice that in a condemned tavern, there's a 0% chance of the room being pristine, but if you come down to the elegant tavern, there's a 35% chance of pristine and a 0% chance of nasty. Again, you can change those odds however you want to for all 5 of those. You have your lighting options. If you remember that first one that we read talked about being lit by bioluminescent flora, that's right there. You can add or remove to these lists however you want to. Those are not capped. You have the ambient section for like the noise being able to be heard through the walls. This is also conditional based upon the quality of the tavern. Again, condemned, rundown, decent, nice, and elegant. The likelihood of some sound, no sound, or ample sound coming through the walls based upon the condition of the tavern. Ignore the yellow section. And then if there is sound coming through the walls, where is it coming from? This is ambience source. You can add or remove to that list. Scrolling to the right a little bit more, we have the bed size, the different types of bed size that we might have, the bed quality, and the bed details. You can add or remove to those lists. Then we've got our extra furniture. How many extra pieces of furniture might there be in this room based upon the tavern's quality? So min-max tables for condemned all the way up to elegant on how many extra pieces of furniture might be in there. Ignore these red cells. And then this list right here is the list of extra furniture that might be in the room. So a bassinet, a footstool, a side table, a thin rug, you can add to this list however you want to. That is uncapped. But everything over here in the gray, blue, and yellow and purple, all of this stuff is just functionality. There's nothing here that you want to edit. In fact, please don't, because if you don't know what you're doing, you'll probably break it. We've got windows. Remember on that first one that we read, it talked about having one window that was nailed shut. This is the likelihood of windows based upon the quality of the tavern, condemned, rundown, decent, etc. So you can have no windows, one window, or two windows, and the odds of that. Scrolling right again, you've got the fireplace. The last one had a ever-burning fireplace. So this is the odds of there being a fireplace based upon the quality of the inn. Condemned inns have a much lower chance of a fireplace in the room than an elegant inn. And then what is an adjective describing that fireplace? The one that we saw earlier was the ever-burning fireplace, but there's a whole bunch of other descriptors as well, and you can add to that list however you like. And then lastly, here for the description of the inn room, we have art and adornments. So how many pieces of art or adornments will there be in a room based upon the quality of the inn? Again, min-max table for condemned all the way up to elegant. Again, you can adjust those numbers. Ignore the red cells again. Here's your list of art pieces that might be in the room. You can add to that list. And then over here, you have a sub list for if a stuffed head comes up. So notice right here, we have a stuffed elk. How come it's an elk? Well, that's because this is the sub list for heads and stuffed. So this is a sub list, and you can edit this sub list for the type of heads and stuffed creatures that might be in the room. If you scroll down, we have another sub list for portraits. Notice if we scroll up here, if you look right here, we had a portrait of an unknown adult female human. But if you look up here in the formula, you can see that it's not just that. There's a formula here that's generating this. In fact, if I cycle the cell, you'll notice that it changed to an unknown elderly female Goliath. Why did that change? What's the sub list? This is the sub list. We've got male and female, and then human, and then some sort of race, and then whether they're young, old, or elderly. It'll pull from all three of these lists separately. In this case, these ones are capped. Male and female is capped, the races section is capped, and the age section is capped. But you can expand them using the process that I showed you earlier. And then you also have a sublist for tapestry and mural details, which coincides with this one right here where it says a mural of a celestial realm. Celestial realm was one of the items in that sublist to make that happen. So you can edit this list and you can edit the sublists as well. But again, ignore all these gray, purple, and yellow and such cells over here, as those are part of the function, as well as these gold cells. Okay, that's it for that section. On to section number 4, which is vacant rooms extra. So these are the additional details for the vacant rooms. We have a min-max table for how many floors are in the tavern based upon the tavern's size. Min-max table again. And you have the lockpick DC based upon the quality of the inn. Min-max table. Ignore the gold. You have the door strength, or the AC, based on quality, and then you have the door strength HP based on quality. Min-max tables again. We have the unique features, and that's what's down in here that I showed you earlier. And that is an uncapped list. Add to that however you like to. Be as creative as you want. And then we do have several sublists as part of the unique feature list. We have Thieves Guild cache, as far as where it's located. And that's right here. That coincides with this one where it says Hidden Thieves Guild cache under a bed. That's generated under a bed from right there, but it could be any of these. This is a capped section, but I've left you some cells that you can add stuff into. And then right here, you'll notice this says a weak safe in the room. It's weak because it came from this sublist for the safe. Weak, moderate, moderately sturdy, or strong. You can add to this within that range, or you can expand it again. Details on the shrines. Details on the size of the shrine or the size of the minibar. We've got small, fair-sized, and large. You can add there. Here's the sublist for any sort of complimentary gift. One of the unique things talks about there being a complimentary such and such with the room. There's the sublist for the complimentary. If there's any blood in the room, which is one of the items in the list, there's the sublist for the blood, sublist for haunted, sublist for love note, a threatening letter. If you find a threatening letter, who's it signed by? There's the alphabet right there, plus some extra room if you wanted to add stuff. Faint smells. What does it smell like? Sublist right there. All of those just feed into the unique features list right here. So you can add or remove to any of those lists as I've already shown you. Okay, that's that section. And then the not vacant rooms patrons section. This is where we affect who these people are in these rooms that are not vacant. So we have, if it's a small room, what are the races that might be generated? If it's a medium room, if it's a large room. So notice over here we have an adult male genasi. That's a medium-sized room. In this one we have a large-sized patron's room, and thus we have an old male Goliath in there. So whatever the size of the room is will determine which of these 3 columns it generates from. Now, if you want there to be funny moments where there's a Goliath stuck in a small race bedroom, like you've got a Goliath sleeping in a halfling-sized bed, over here in the blue, where it says odds that the patron might not fit the room size. So what are the odds that you will have a Goliath in a medium-sized room or a small-sized room? It's a 20% chance. You can change this percentage. If you want there to be a very, very high likelihood that you'll have a small person in a huge room or vice versa, you can up the percentage of this. If you want it to never happen, drop it to 0%. Here is your odds table for the age of the patron in that room. So in this case, old or adult, and then the patron's gender. Ignore the yellow, and that's it. There's a lot of information in there. There's a lot of customization that you can do, which again is awesome, I think, because that's what sets this random generator apart from every other random generator you've ever toyed around with. You can decide exactly what type of taverns you want to be existent in your world, what types of races are present, what types of patrons are there. There's so many things that you can customize, and that's what sets my random generator apart from all the others. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, I have dozens of other generators, so be sure to check them out here on YouTube or at buymeacoffee.com. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and happy gaming. The Sweaty Spoon. The name of this tavern is the Sweaty Spoon.